October 1931. Backside of this ridge, first hard frost silvering the fence rail, and a woman I only ever knew as Granny Wren sets a clay dish of bacon grease on the table, floats a twist of cotton rag in it, and lays a coal to the wick. The room goes gold. 4 children lean in over their letters, and not one of them is afraid of the dark. Because in that house, the dark was never a thing you waited on a company to come push back for you. You made your own light, or you sat in the black. And nobody in that cabin ever sat in the black. Now flip your breaker tonight. Just the main. Every room you own goes dark as a coal seam, and most grown men couldn't make one honest hour of light without driving to a store. That's not a failing in you, friend. That's a competence that got taken. The good lights, the ones that never needed a wire, were the simplest of the whole bunch. And that switch on your wall is the youngest of them all. The weakest link, the one that quits the second the line goes down. 25 ways to make light with your own 2 hands. And I'll tell you now. Number 4, glowed as bright as the bulb over your kitchen table, on nothing but a wick and a puddle of oil. Number 3, my grandfather made me swear I'd teach my own children before he'd let me have his. And there's one they worked hardest of all to make you forget, because somebody got rich the day you forgot it. None of these 25 ever stopped working. Everyone throws the same light it threw in 1880. They faded because a man figured out how to sell you the version with a cord on it. Not a conspiracy, neighbor. Just how markets eat an old skill. I'm Amos Walker, 7th generation on this mountain. My grandfather's journal open beside me right now. 25 down to 1. And number 1 isn't a trick at all. It's the thing the other 24 were pointing at. Stay with me. This one's worth your evening. Comment below if your family ever kept the old ways. A lamp, a candle mold, a carbide light, any trick like these still sitting in a drawer somewhere. I'd love to hear which ones are still out there. Number 25, and we start where it's easy. A can of plain white shortening, Crisco, lard, whatever's in the pantry, and 1 cotton wick pushed down the middle with a stick. A candle in a can. A full 48 ounce can burn 50 to 70 hours off 1 wick. Now, you'll hear folks swear that can burn 72 days. I've run these on my porch, and I'll tell you plain. That number was never honestly measured. What's real is closer to a couple days on a quart jar, and that's plenty. A lie doesn't help you. Next one runs on nothing you'd even call fuel. Number 24. Pour cooking oil or melted lard or Sunday skillet grease into a jar. Coil a wire to hold a salted cotton wick just above the oil and light it. A few ounces burns for hours. A wick down a full can of lard burns a month straight without you touching it. That's the whole rig. A $40 lantern replaced by a jar and a rag. The store sells you the fuel and the fixture both. Your great-grandmother threw the fuel to the hogs. Next one, you don't buy or render. You pick it. Next up is molded candles. Before the store had a candle aisle, a woman poured hot tallow into a set of tin or pewter tubes with the wick strung down the center, let them set, and popped out a dozen at once. Owning that mold was the difference between candles all winter and candles never. Next one, the candle everybody misremembers. Number 22. Coming in next is the dipped tallow candle. And here's what everybody gets backwards. When you picture your grandmother's candles, you picture beeswax, golden, honey sweet. Wrong. The everyday candle in 9 houses of 10 was tallow, rendered beef and mutton fat, dipped over and over on a string till it built up thick. It smoked, it stank a little like cooked meat, and rendering the fat alone took 6 hours over a kettle. Even homemade, tallow cost about 4 pence a candle in labor and fat you could have eaten, so a family burned them careful. That's who your people were. Now the pretty one. Number 21. Now we have beeswax. And yes, it's everything they say. Clean, bright, sweet, almost no soot, burning near twice as long as tallow, 15 hours to the ounce. So why didn't your grandmother use it? Because beeswax was church money, gentry money. $15, $20 a pound in today's terms against a few dollars for the fat you already had. It lit the altar and the big house. It didn't light the cabin. Remember that. The beautiful version was always priced for somebody else. Number 20, they made from a bush. That brings us to bayberry. A woman boiled the little gray berries off the wax myrtle and skimmed a green wax that smelled like heaven when you pinched the flame out. 15 pounds of berries for 1 pound of wax. A full day stooping in the brush for 1 candle. That's why it was a Christmas light, saved for the good nights. There's an old saying rode with it. A bayberry candle burned to the socket brings joy to the heart and gold to the pocket. Next one you don't even mold. You light the plant itself. Our next one is the mullein torch. The hags taper. The Romans burned them. You take a tall, dried mullein stalk, that fuzzy weed in every ditch on this mountain, or a brown cattail head off the pond, dip it in melted fat, and light the top like a giant match. The cattail head wicks grease up almost like a store candle, free out of the ditch, ready in the time the fat takes to melt. Nobody sells you a weed. That's exactly why nobody remembers it. Now, first pattern break. Notice the pattern, neighbor. Everything to here, your grandmother could have shown you in an afternoon. Grease, fat, a wick, a weed. Cheap and homemade and crowded off the shelf the day a factory made it easier to buy than to make. It doesn't get gentler going down this list. It gets sharper. From here, the light gets brighter, the money gets bigger, and the men who profited get names. Another product worth calling out is the spirit lamp. Up in this country, where a man might keep a little high-proof corn liquor for his own reasons, folks learned pure alcohol burns clean and near smokeless in a simple wick lamp. Moonshine is lamp oil, true, and cleaner than the greasy lights. Next one, the light your Scots-Irish people carried over the water. Now we have the cruisy lamp, a little open iron pan, one side pinched into a lip for the wick, a hook on the back to jam into a chink in the wall. Fill it with any grease or fish oil, twist a cotton rag for a wick, and there's your light. The Scots-Irish who settled these very hollows carried the cruisy in their memory when they had nothing else. Next one fixed its worst fault and lit half of colonial America. Coming in next is the Betty lamp, probably the most used light in the whole colonies. Same idea as the cruisy, but covered with a wick channel that drained the drips back into the font instead of onto your table. The name's from the German for better, and it was. Now. Folks get misty and call it romantic. I've burned one. It's feeble, it smokes, and fed on fish oil, it smells like low tide in the room. Whale oil in it gave about the light of 2 candles. Not romance, friend, just steady, and steady is what a family needed. Next one came out of the sea. Our next one is the whale oil lamp. Enclosed font, a wick, oil rendered from a whale. For about 150 years, right up to the 1840s, the real upgrade for a family of modest means. Brighter and cleaner than fat. And mark this, it matters later. To make this light, men crossed oceans and killed the biggest thing that ever lived. Next one they made from the woods, and it near blew people up. That brings us to camphene, burning fluid. In the 1830s, a man named Porter mixed spirits of turpentine with alcohol, about 1 part turpentine to 4 parts spirit, and got a bright, cheap light out of the pine woods. I'll concede the danger plane. This stuff flashed and exploded, especially when some poor soul topped off a lit lamp. People died, and I'll never romanticize a fuel that killed folks. But mark it. The light of the common man, bright and cheap, right before something cheaper buried it. Next one carried the flame into the weather. Second pattern break. Fair warning. From here down the lights get famous. Brand names. And behind every brand name is a man who got rich the day your people stopped making their own. That's the case I've been building since number 25, and it's about to close. Number 3's coming, the miner's light my grandfather swore me to. And number 1, the thing all of this points at. Next up is the Diet's lantern, the barn lantern. Robert Diet set the glass globe inside a wire cage with air tubes feeding the flame so it burned through wind, rain, and a kick from a mule. Barn, wagon, boat, every railroad in the country swung one. His company ran from 1840 to 1970. 130 years of light you could hang on a nail. Next one, the fuel that filled it and changed everything. If you're finding this useful and don't want to miss the next one, hit subscribe. It's the only way to make sure you catch it before these old tricks disappear for good. Now we have the kerosene flat wick lamp. In 1859, they struck oil in Pennsylvania. And within a few years, a flat cotton wick under a glass chimney put a bright, cheap, near-smokeless flame in almost every home in America. The chimney's the trick. It pulls a draft past the flame so it burns clean and steady. This is the one that killed the whale trade near overnight. But cheap light from one company's oil field. Remember that. Next one, that same company gave the lamp away free, and you should ask why. Coming in next is the Rayo Center draft lamp. Standard Oil put its name on this one. A round wick with a tube of air up the center, brighter than any flat wick. And they near gave it away. Generous? No, sir. That lamp was a fuel hog by design. Burn brighter, burn more oil, buy more oil. Every gallon from them. The light was the bait. The fuel was the meter. First time on this list, the villain has an address. Next one threw the light of 10 candles 100 years before the bulb. Next up is the Argand lamp. In the 1780s, a Swiss fellow named Argand built a tube-shaped wick that fed air both inside and outside the flame, a glass chimney over it. Suddenly, one lamp threw the light of 10 ordinary candles. 10. The brightest thing in a room for 70 years. 100 years before the bulb, 10 candles out of one wick and a clever draft. Nobody taught you that in school. Next one. The simplest, brilliant thing on this whole list. Now we have the tin reflector sconce. A tinsmith would punch and polish a curved sheet of tin, bright as a mirror, and set it on the wall behind a single candle. That reflector caught the light thrown backward. Light just warming the wall for nothing, and doubled it into the room. One candle, lit like 2 or 3. No fuel, no flame, no cost, but a sheet of tin. When a candle cost real money, a reflector was money in your pocket every night. A wall of switches replaced by one candle and a mirror. Next one, focused light, so fine that 18 women worked by one flame. Our next one is the lacemaker's condenser, and this one I love. Picture an English cottage, one candle in the middle of the table, and around it a ring of glass globes filled with the purest water, snow water, crushed ice. Each globe squeezed that one flame into a tight, bright beam and threw it onto the hands of the woman behind it. On a good flash stool, up to 18 lacemakers shared a single candle. 18. Each with a spot of light bright enough for the finest thread. That's not poverty, friend. That's genius the poor could afford. Next one lit the poorest cottage in Britain for a farthing. Another product worth calling out is the rushlight, near forgotten now, which is a crime. You take the soft rush from any wet ditch, peel the green off but leave one thin strip of skin for a backbone, dry the white pith, and dip it in melted grease. A foot of rush burns 10-15 minutes. But here's the number that ought to stop you cold. 1 pound of rushes made better than 800 hours of light, and a thrifty woman got 5.5 hours of it for a single farthing, the smallest coin there was. A year's light for 1.5 pounds of ditch weed and kitchen grease. Almost nobody alive can still make it. Next one's the light of the poorest, and a man in 1634 wrote it down as beneath him. That brings us to the pine splint and splint holder. Older cousin to the rushlight. Split resin-soaked pitch pine into thin slivers, clamp one in a pair of hinged iron jaws, and burn it. A man named William Wood wrote in 1634 that this candlewood may serve as a shift among poor folks, but he wouldn't commend it, for it droppeth a pitchy kind of substance where it stands, meaning it dripped tar on the floor. Well, it also gave free light to people the gentleman wouldn't sit beside. His complaint is exactly why your people used it. Next one, the light my grandfather made me swear on. Third pattern break. Stay right with me. From here, it stops being about candles and starts being about the difference between people who can make their own light and people who buy it. Number 4 glowed like your kitchen bulb. Number 3, my grandfather swore me to. And number 1 is the reason for all of it. Next up is the Coleman lantern. In 1900 W.C., Coleman found a lamp that vaporized white gas through a generator and heated a mantle till it screamed white. His portable lantern by 1914 threw up to 300 candle power. Call it a 300-watt bulb. Lit 100 yards across a field, 20 times the light of any oil wick lamp. That's the one, friend. Brighter than the bulb over your table, not a wire in sight. Next one did nearly the same with no pressure and no gasoline at all. That brings us to the one I promised you in the first minute, the Aladdin mantle lamp. Plain kerosene, a round wick, and a rare earth mantle over it that glowed clean white. And here's the beauty. No pump, no pressure, no roar. You just lit it. It glowed like a 60-watt bulb, 4 times the light per gallon of any wick lamp, and won the gold medal as the finest kerosene lamp in the world in 1915. This is the light that let a farm family off the wire red and sew and live like the town folks. Soft, white, steady, electric in everything but the cord. When the power drops on my mountain, this is what I light. It never once has failed me. Next one, my grandfather's light. Number 3. That brings us to the one I swore to my grandfather I'd pass on, so I'm passing it to you, the carbide lamp. In the coal country of these mountains, down in the caves, out coon hunting on a black night, a man carried a little brass lamp of 2 chambers. Water on top, dripping slow onto crushed calcium carbide below. Where the water touches that rock, it makes a gas, acetylene, and the gas jets out a tiny tip against a polished reflector, and you spark it with a flint built into the lamp. A 1/4 cup of carbide, roughly equal parts water, burns 3-4 hours wide open, up to 12 turned down low, bright as a strong flashlight and steadier. And you turn the water drip to turn up the light. First patented in 1900, and for 50 years it was the light of the Appalachian miner. My grandfather's is on my shelf, and I'll concede the danger, the way he taught me. That's an open flame feeding on a gas, and you never, ever burn it in a closed space. Vent first, always, but learn it, and you carry hours of bright light on a fistful of gray rock and a cup of water. Almost nobody left knows how. Next one. The brightest, dearest light there ever was, and it cost a life to make. Not a man's, a whale's. Next up is the spermaceti candle. When they cut open the great head of a sperm whale, they found it full of a fine white wax, spermaceti, and rendered into candles it burned brighter, harder, whiter, and cleaner than anything on earth, the gold standard. The very word we still use, candle power, was set by the light of one spermaceti candle. George Washington figured it took about 8 pounds of them to burn 1 candle 5 hours a night for a year. 1 candle at a time, and behind it a hunt across the whole ocean, a creature the size of a barn brought down for it. That's what our people paid for good light. Not money, blood and salt and months at sea. We flip a switch and don't feel the weight of it. They felt every ounce. And when the wire came, we set the whole thing down and forgot it was ever heavy at all. Which brings me to number 1. Number 1 isn't a lamp. It's the light that was under all of it the whole time, costs nothing, and you can walk out your door and pick it up off the ground tonight. The pine knot, lightered, fat wood. The resin-soaked heart of a pitch pine, the knot where a branch was, so full of pitch it lights off a coal and burns like a torch. A colonial governor wrote back to England in 1662 that it was much used up and down the colonies. A preacher said it burned as clear as a torch. Mountain families burned it into living memory. You set it on a flat stone at the corner of the hearth because it drips, and you have bright light for free, forever, as long as there are pines on the mountain. And there always are. And before you write me, no, fireflies in a jar won't light your room, and foxfire, that green glow on rotten wood, is real, but it's a marker, not a lamp. Pretty folklore, both of them. The pine knot is the real free light, and it was always there. That's number 1, neighbor. And here's why it's number 1 and not just the 25th trick. Every single light on this list. The Crisco can, the bacon grease jar, the rushlight, the reflector, my grandfather's carbide lamp, the spermaceti candle that cost a whale. Every one of them was a different answer to the same one question. How do I push back the dark without asking anybody's permission? That's the skill, not the lamp. The skill of not needing to be given light. Not a store, not a wire, not a meter, not a company. Granny Wren, back at the top of this, touching a coal to a rag and a dish of grease. She wasn't poor. She was free. And the man who got rich the day, you forgot all this? He's the one who put the meter between you and the dark and taught you to call it progress. So don't go rewire your cabin this week. The lights aren't going out, friend. The stores are open. Do one thing. This weekend, save the grease off one skillet, twist up a bit of cotton, float it in the dish, and light your porch by at once with the switch turned off. Sit with it a minute. That's the first step, and it's the whole step. That's how the light comes back. Then tell me down below. Did your grandparents light the house the old way? A lamp? A candle mold? A carbide light? A trick I never named? The one that shows up most in the comments is the one I build the next whole video around. This isn't a lifestyle channel, neighbor. It's a library somebody hoped you'd never open. Next time, the 2-cent lamp oil that lit half the frontier and the year they made good and sure you'd forget it. Keep the old ways. They kept us. If you found this useful, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We cover this kind of thing regularly, and there's a lot more where this came from. Drop a comment below if your family still keeps any of these.